Morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board Workshop Session. Today is May 19th, 2023, so happy Friday to everyone this morning. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Michael Woodman, and he's going to walk us through each of our applications that we'll be hearing at our public hearing that will start at 9 o'clock this morning. So, Michael, good morning.
Thank you, Chairman and board members. The first item that you are considering this morning is cabinets to go, which is a sign. This item was deferred at your last DRB meeting. Some of the comments was you were asking for additional details on the signs as well as consideration of colors, and you did ask the applicant to bring some color samples with them to this meeting. I believe in the packets are the original sign, which showed a purple color sign. The second item that's been added to for that particular item, it looks like they changed the color of the sign to a black sign, I believe, and that's what's shown in the packets. I may be incorrect on that, but that's what I just viewed.
Are you talking, Michael? Are you talking about the one that the second set in there that doesn't have the scallop corners?
Yeah, there were two documents. The first document showed the purple sign. I think there were several pages with that, and then there was a second document that was attached to that item, and it showed this similar signage, but there had been some slight changes to it, and with a black color on the sign.
I think what that is I think that's last month's package.
Oh, okay.
But it's a photocopy, so that's why it's in black and not purple.
I don't have any other update on that signage as of this morning, so we'll have to see what the applicant is bringing forward. The next item that you'll be considering is Will's Overlook, which is a 16 townhome development on South Main Street. The project also has a historic structure, which is the Earl Wood House. The Historic Preservation Commission will be reviewing and approving the historic structure. But the applicant did include the historic structure so that you could see the architecture of the townhomes in comparison of the historic structure that's on the property. Staff has reviewed the request of the architecture, the site plan, the landscape plan that's been provided by the applicant on Will's Overlook, and we believe that it does comply with the code as well as the council conditions. Were there any questions on the Will's Overlook?
So, Michael, we're not reviewing site plan because that's already been approved by City Council, correct?
There is a site plan specific condition. So council did look at the site plan on that particular item. So there's a condition that ties them to that site plan. The site plan that they show you, though, does match what they showed to council.
All right, very good. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay.
All right. The next item that you're going to be considering is Honda Carland, which is out on State Bridge Road. This is a change to the exterior of the building, and I believe there's some changes within the site with regard to landscaping as well. Staff did review this one, and I don't know if the comments made it over to the applicant. I did have a brief conversation with the applicant this morning, and they weren't aware. But I know staff had some concerns about the roof line changing. So right now there's a variation in the roof line of the building, and the new building that is being proposed, or the new facade of the building that's being proposed, has a flat roof line. Has a very kind of industrial warehouse type feel to it. So I know that was one of staff's concerns on that particular item. Let me just double check if we had any additional comments. And then the city arborist did have a few comments with regard to their landscape plan. There were some trees, I think, that were removed in the landscape strip up along State Bridge Road. And there were some comments there we can get in. I can show those comments if you've not received those during that item. The next item is the Jinya Ramen Bar. This is a request to add a new, change their patio that's out along their frontage of the restaurant. That's here in City Center. They're also adding an entry into their front, like a breezeway at their front door. We do believe that the plan that they've presented to us does comply with our code. And we did have, the city arborist had a few comments with respect to the shrubs that would be planted around the patio area. Specifically, he indicated that, DRB would want to know exactly what was being proposed there, and either side of the patio, as well any landscape plantings on either side of the planting. And he wanted to know if this patio was impacting that pervious walkway that's right out front of their area.
Okay.
And then the last item that we have this morning is Foamworks Alpharetta, which is a new car wash. This is the old Auto Bell car wash out on Old Milton Parkway, north side of Old Milton Parkway at Cotton Creek Entry. So Foamworks went through pretty extensive public hearing with City Council and a lot of back and forth on the building. So that building was really pretty much designed and approved by council. You are considering the building today, but I suspect your focus is going to be more on the site and the landscape. The original request for that building was to paint the brick white, and then the applicant came back with like a German smear on the building. That really wasn't well received by council, and ultimately the applicant did agree to just leave the brick as is. It's a pretty nice brick on the building. They are removing a portico on the west side of the building, and then reusing the rest of the building for the automatic car wash. We worked pretty extensively with the applicant on their landscape plan. With staff had quite a few comments that the landscape plan was not compliant with code and did not meet the zoning conditions on the property. We worked through all of those issues, and we did email out the updated landscape plan to you yesterday late afternoon. It's version 6 of the landscape plan. The applicant was nice enough to actually create a red line markup of the landscape plan, and there's a little bit of commentary as to how they met or addressed staff's comments about the being out of compliance with code and the council conditions. So we did send that out to everybody yesterday. They also included a few images of the vacuum stations for you, as well as some modifications to the exterior of the building that specifically had to do with the signage, because I think Brett had given them some comments that the signage wasn't compliant, and so they made some changes to those elevations to show the signs complying with code.
All right.
That's all I have for you this morning. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Michael, quick question on our iPads. Has the new information for Foamworks been downloaded?
The new information for Foamworks is not part of your packet, so
Okay.
It would be part of the email. James also has access to that new information that was emailed out yesterday if we need to bring that up.
Yeah, we'll need to walk through that because I didn't get a chance to look at every attachment that you sent to me.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from board members at this point? Okay. All right. Well, let's adjourn our workshop session, and we'll be back here at 9 o'clock to get going with our public hearing. So get your coffee cups filled, water bottles filled, stretch your legs, and we'll get going in a few minutes. here we go. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board public hearing. Today is Friday, May 19th, 2023, and I've got to get used to this microphone in front of me, so bear with me here. Welcome, everyone. First order of business, call to order, and then roll call. Looks like everybody is here, so good morning. Even Mr. LeCain, good to see you this morning, so thank you for being here. All right, a gentle reminder for those that have electronic devices, if you'll just silence those for us, appreciate that. And then if we will stand, face the flag, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance this morning, please. All right, thank you for that. Next, any items from staff this morning? Any items from staff? No items, no birthdays, no anniversaries or anything like that? Okay. Yes, Mr. Schroeder, Brett is on a cruise today, so we have our able-bodied staff filling in for Brett. So thank you for being here, Michael, and Mr. Drinkard, thank you for being here this morning. So very good. All right, any items from board members this morning? Anything from board members? No? No? Okay. All right. Next order of business is to approve our meeting minutes. And so we've got two sets of those to approve. So we've got the meeting minutes from March 17th, 2023. We've had a draft copy. I know I had a few corrections that I did send to Tracy. She's updated those. So those have been published and they should be good to go. So can I have a motion to approve our March meeting minutes, please?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from March 17th. And a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Palmer, a second by Mr. Owens. Any questions or comments about the motion? There being none, all in favor of approving the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board meeting minutes of March 17th, 2023, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed, no opposition, and one abstention because Ms. Rhodes was not here. So minutes are approved 6-0-1. Very good for that. All right. Our next meeting was April 21st, 2023. And again, there were a couple corrections that I sent to Tracy. She's made those corrections and republished the corrected version of the meeting minutes. Any other questions or comments about that, about the meeting minutes? All right, who wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Regarding DRB meeting minutes from April 21st, 2023, I move that we approve the meeting minutes. And the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Rocco, a second by Ms. Palmer. Any comments or questions? There being none, all in favor of approving the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board meeting minutes of April 21st, 2023, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed and one abstention. So minutes are approved 6-0-1. All right, thank you for that. Okay, next order of business is our first applicant or application of this morning, and that is Cabinets to Go. Come on down, please, or come on up. Good morning. And Ms. Rhodes is going to excuse herself since she wasn't here last month. But good morning. If you'll introduce
Morning.
yourselves, speak
Yes.
into the microphone, and
Hi.
then give us an overview of what we have
Hi,
this
I'm
morning.
Dean Workman,
And I'm Bill Swanson.
and we're representing Cabinets to Go. Thank you all for, taking the time to meet back with us again with revisions from the last meeting. We went back and took the design recommendations and to give it a more interesting look to the sign, added the scallop edges to just give it more character to the sign, and then also produced a sample so you could see how the colors would look, and then also the texture of the wood, and just give a more three-dimensional look to have a better representation. And we're asking if we could, if you would consider approving this new design and with the color that is used in the brand.
I mean, that literally looks like the actual sign. Is it it's the same size?
This-
I mean, you're probably ready to install that one now, aren't you?
Well, not this one, but it is this is the actual size of the sign on the side of the building. If you look on the, let's see, I'll show you so this is the actual size of the sign that's on the flag mount. So in looking at the design and adding to it, it's not a lot of change, but I feel like, we felt like less was more because of the armature. Any additional modifications to it, we felt, in playing around with it and in the design, we felt like it was going to be too much because of the decorative armature on this sign, and then also on one of the front signs.
So essentially, this is what you're proposing.
Yeah, this is the exact sign.
I like what you've done with that.
And the difference would be this sign would be double-sided, so where this one's single-sided.
What's it, can you just flip it around for us? What does it look like on the other side? Oh, it's, okay. But
It will be double-sided.
okay.
Yes.
The other ones go up against the wall. I like what you've done with it. I like the color, because it's a dignified color that, that fits in with some of the things that we want, pardon me, that we want to see in this part of town. And you've got a font that's your corporate look. In a perfect world, we might have steered you towards some serif fonts, but that works well, and I like it.
All right, Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 230011, cabinets to go, I move that we approve this sign as presented today. End of motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Rocco, a second by Mr. Owens. Comments or questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the recommendations. I feel like in the end, we came out with a better looking sign, so we're very happy with it. Thank you very much.
Good, good. Thank you for working with us. Appreciate it. All right. Our next applicant this morning is Will's Overlook. Will's Overlook. You're here. Come on down or come on up, please.
I got it. There's just been chit-chat, I guess. That was an improvement.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The first time they presented, it was like, how do you, this was like movement. It's
Yeah.
great.
Oh, they've been loaded? Excellent. Okay.
I'm feeling like we are extremely. 2 meeting minutes with 1 agenda item. Now watch this one.
Okay, good morning. Welcome. If you'll make sure you speak into the microphone, introduce yourselves, and then.
Good
give us-
morning. My name is Paul Nocharli. I'm representing the developer.
My name is Samuel Kimani. I'm the project architect.
And I'm Brian Cole, BC Engineering, mostly here for the civil part.
Very good. Welcome. Okay, give us an overview of what we have in our packet this morning, please.
From the original concept that we had presented and got it approved, we had a change for the entrance and exit to the development project. We ran it by Georgia DOT. They didn't like the way it was set with the entry on the entrance on one side and the exit on the other side. We had to rearrange that. We went through a loop of probably a couple of months with them, and we ended up with a new entrance and exit from the project. Everything else remaining the same. So this is the old rendering of the project. Sure. Okay, thanks. That helps. We maintained the public access through the development project to the park, and the same kind of fence that you're seeing in here that was maintained. Everything related to landscaping and road planning was pretty much maintained. We had to make some slight modifications to accommodate the underground retention tanks, and we have lots of those in the front and in the back of the property. So I guess this is the new layout, and Brian, if you can take it from here.
Yeah, that'll be great. Give us an overview of the kind of the site plan. Perfect.
Yeah, so from the civil point of view, the DOT had us make the entrances go closer together, get a little safer. That's what they were asking us for. So we've been working with GDOT now for about 2 months, and that's their desired entrances. It's still similar in nature to have 2 entrances. Primarily the northernmost entrance is the in, and the southernmost entrance is the exit. As far as the underground detention, we've been working with Jill and David on putting the same concept in the original zoning. They had to the rear, they had some rear stormwater management to the front. We've just customized it to the actual impervious area with underground tanks so that they're underneath the parking areas and not in the drive aisles in the front, and outside any structural areas in the back with the patios or decks and things like that. The landscaping.
Brian, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you just point out where all those tanks are or where the underground stormwater detention is? Is there a way that you can do that either? Do you have a mouse, or is there anything? Somebody's controlling a mouse. I think it'll, okay.
Yeah, okay, here it is. Great. Go back to the previous. Let's go back to the. Okay, that's it here. That's it. So the underground tanks, you see the parallel parking area in here? In here?
The darker area.
Yeah. And in here as well. And on this side. And then in the back, the darker area in here, all this will have retention tanks. We're using storm tank. They have a rate of 93% volume retention. They're like, think of it like rigid plastic boxes that fit in a chamber underground.
Okay.
And water will collect in it and will dissipate in the grounds. So quite extensive. I think, speaking for Brian, the way this is designed, the rooftops right now are sloping towards the back,
That's correct.
and any water collecting on the roof will flow into the back tanks, the one I highlighted here, the dark sides on the back side, and the road and the front flows into the front tanks, and then into the storm sewer system.
And the natural ridge line in that property is about the center of that property. So we're trying to keep as close to the original natural basins that are out there. And we've been working with Jill on that. The front actually drains to inlets that were there by GDOT with the road widening. So we're connecting directly into their storm system, and they've conceptually approved it.
So the areas where the stormwater detention is, are those paved, for instance? Is there?
In the front parking lot, they are, the parking is paved on top of them.
Okay.
In the rear, they're open to sod.
Okay, so there's sod on top of them.
Correct.
Okay. Just trying to understand the concept and what you actually see if you're standing on top of them, for instance.
We were just going to put a green cover. We're going to have the gravel with the fabric on top and then like a sod type area back on top of them. But if we needed to change it to some shrubs or something more decorative back there, we could. But the major issue was the trees in the park, and we were trying to stay out of all the drip line of the trees on the park from the same concept that was approved during zoning.
So how, I guess, I'm still trying to picture this. So on the rear tanks, we're putting, or you're putting sod on top of that. There's got to be some dirt under that and then some sort of, I mean, how much of a, how thick is that? How,
Folks,
Yeah,
if you
it's
could.
just like a 2-inch layer of,
Make sure you come to the microphone,
Yeah.
please.
it's just like a 2-inch layer of dirt and sod on top of the gravel base that's back there over in the rear of the property. So you have about a 5-foot tank that's wrapped with fabric and has stone on the sidewalls. And then on top of that, there's like 2 inches of sod on top of the tank. And it'll all be irrigated.
okay. I just haven't seen that. I'm not familiar with that. So that's why that's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it before.
So you can walk on, first, you can walk on that.
Oh, yeah, it's a gravel base with 2 inches of topsoil and sod.
And then they're mowing the sod, they're cutting the sod
Yeah,
as the grass grows and so forth, okay? All right. Okay,
yeah, the typical section.
On the front section, it shows in here, this is the section in here, it's a 6-foot section. Essentially, it's got 2 feet of stones, gravel underneath it for drainage. Then the height of the boxes is 3 feet each. That's 5, and there's 1 foot topping on top of that.
To the rear of the property, you can see where the tanks are. They're connected with the roof drains that directly flow into the tank.
okay, very good. And then, again, looking at the site, there's some access, I guess, to Will's Park. Can you show us where that is, please?
This is the access in here. You see this kind of a semicircle in here at the entrance. It provides access through to the trails, which connects to Wills Park in the back. That's the main entrance.
Okay.
And it's a public entrance.
We have made those handicap also, so they're ADA ramps through the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm quite impressed that you have provided that public access through the site.
Yeah.
It's a nice surprise to see that you've given the public access through the site, which would almost seem to be not necessary. But it's a noble thing to do. Did the city request that connection? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the.
I think it's desirable for a community to have walkable access.
No, yeah, it's all right. And, what's that? Yes. Yes.
So, Brian, you have power lines that come into the site and run along the front of the site, yes?
Yes, we do.
Are all, oh, thank you. Are all those are to remain?
Sarah, why don't you come on up here? Sarah's been working with the landscape plan. I'll let her introduce herself.
Good morning, Sarah Spencer here for Frawley Associates Landscape Architects. I guess to answer that question, we are taking existing overhead power that was connecting to the existing house, and that will be underground and perpendicular to the house then. So I believe it ties in. There's not overhead along the right-of-way frontage on our side. It just crosses the street and then
Okay.
would tie in underground. So we could
And
do
all
our
that
opens.
was just individual power to the existing building?
Yes.
Okay. Any of them to street lights or anything like that?
Not at this point. I think there may be some external on the buildings, but
I just
yeah,
wonder if the existing power, does that run to any existing power poles with lights on them or anything like
I don't believe so.
that? Okay.
If there was, it might have been in the existing parking lot, but that wasn't shown on our survey, so I don't think that.
Okay. Because I see, it says power pole to be relocated.
Right.
Is that being relocated or are they going away?
I believe that would be, I'm not sure. I guess it would have to remain at the street and be relocated and then from there into the site because it would need the power pole to cross over South Main.
Okay, so
I
the pole stays and then you're dropping the power underground.
Yes.
Well, there's a proposed.
Although that is my understanding of it, I am obviously not an electrical engineer, so I'm gonna.
We're currently working
I'm
with
not taking
Georgia
liability
Power.
for that.
So,
Yeah, we're currently
Okay.
working with Georgia Power.
It looks
on
like
all
there's a
that.
second pole being installed.
yeah, I'm just
So-
trying to figure out what
Okay,
all that means.
all right. Talk to us, the public access, again, from South Main to Wills Park. Looks like there's a retaining wall there. What's that?
It's
made
a
of?
small 2-foot retaining wall along
Okay.
that unit, just to keep the grade break through there. Like I say, the center of those units is kind of the ridge in the property. So to make it work fairly flat, fairly contiguous through there and not put any steps, we just put a small 2-foot high modular block retaining wall. It's going to match the building along that area between the buildings.
And which side, where would you see the modular block from which?
It'd be on the exterior side,
What's the exterior side?
the sidewalk side.
The
So-
sidewalk,
So
the
it's
public
higher
access.
against the building, and the sidewalk side would be
Okay.
the exterior side.
I mean, do you envision somebody sitting on that wall, for instance, if they need to take a break or come through and just stop?
They could, it's only going to be 2-foot high.
Okay.
It doesn't need a railing.
No, I understand that, but somebody could just come by, so I guess it's got a cap on it or something, maybe.
Yeah, well, there'll probably be a cap lock on it. Yeah, there'll have to be a cap.
Okay. Are there any other retaining walls on the site?
No, there's not any that we have proposed at this time.
Okay. It seems to be a pretty flat site from,
It is,
Driving
we're
by
kind of taking the top off and trying to keep it as flat and level as we can, balance the site.
okay?
I like the way that you've developed the site plan with 3 parallels to Main Street. And because I've become familiar with the site, having put together a couple proposals for it, for other uses, this is a wonderful way to present what you've done.
Well, thank you.
While we're on the site plan, can you show us where there are any fences or other walls on the property?
I'd like to get Sarah back up here too, because it's kind of a combination
Sure
of
does.
fences and screen walls.
I was gonna go to landscape, but that's,
Yeah.
And
Okay.
zoning.
probably landscape. Frank jumping the gun.
Here you go.
All right. So excuse me. Oh, definitely not a lot of practice with the microphone. Maybe just karaoke, but not. So we have the proposed 5-foot ornamental iron style fence along the street frontage, and then there would be a shorter, same ornamental iron style fence that would run parallel with the mulch trail and have kind of residential gates on either side that would connect to the mulch trails going either direction toward the more, I guess, private communal areas on the development.
So does that fence meander with the mulch trail?
Yes.
So it follows the contour
Mhm.
kind of parallel, okay? I mean,
Yes.
it's just not a straight parallel, it's a serpentine.
Correct. Yep.
Got it.
It's tough to tell at this scale, but it kind of just makes a dog leg and follows with it toward the end of the property. Our landscape concept plan, probably the black and white one would be easier to see than the rendering.
Because on the site plan, I can see a fence along the path that goes through the property. I
Mhm.
didn't see a fence anywhere else.
One moment.
It is, and there's a gate, pedestrian gate.
Yeah, yeah.
Another question about the site plan. To the rear of the houses toward Wills Park, are you creating a space there where a homeowner could have a black metal fence set up for a dog to run outside in case I want to live there?
Paul, you best can answer. They were asking if there was what type of fence you were going to put around the patio area on the basement. The fence was it was a screen wall fence that you were proposing for the individual units behind. It was 6 foot. Yeah, it's just a 6 foot high screen wall fence. I believe it was wood.
Thank you.
So on the south side of the property, there appears to be a proposed 6 foot in height opaque wood privacy fence.
On the west side?
I'm saying on
Adjacent to the
south.
Waffle House.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right, on the,
That was a condition of zoning.
all right, the
Yeah.
left side of the drawing. West, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going north, south, south. And so it looks like that's got some piers to it. What does that look like?
Try not to block the view of others. So there would be the masonry columns along the street frontage, but there wouldn't be proposed columns along the west side. It would just be,
No, that's what you're showing.
it's just probably the line type look. It is just supposed to be wood fence, wood
Alright.
privacy fence. So there
So-
would be the posts that would have, their attachment for the ground, but not,
So what does that look like? Do you have a picture of it?
for the masonry columns or the wood fence.
Both.
The masonry columns are on the landscape rendering. They would match the South Main LCI materials. That would be a white brick with stone base.
What,
Well, no, not the red brick. Right.
what, all right,
It would be the ornamental fence, but staff recommended that we tie in with the South Main LCI style, which would be for the brick,
what does that look like?
sorry, not stone columns. Am I not pointing to the right image? There was an image, right? Yeah. Thank you, Michael. All right. Correct. Okay.
There is a zoning condition that applies to the west landscape strip, but it does not require a fence of any kind there. And I don't know that a wooden privacy fence would be,
They're showing it on the drawing.
yeah, I don't know that that's something that we should approve. Yeah, you should definitely look at that. I don't know, I don't think that a wooden privacy fence is probably appropriate. The visibility of that from South Main Street, if it's set back and screened with landscaping, then it would be appropriate, but if it's very close up to the road, we don't want to see. Yeah. Well, you're talking about the property to the west? Yeah.
That's the breakfast
It's
place.
just gonna, it abuts right up against that Waffle House, and I don't think they have any visibility there. But yes, certainly, that would be a consideration.
To the west is where they'll go to eat breakfast.
I did.
See, I'm looking at this drawing.
You can see what we're focusing on.
Sure.
Is there a drawing that has the true layout? I'm feeling heat, eyeballs. So is there a concise drawing that shows the things we're focusing on? In other words, the columns, what they look like. I hear that there might be one that's at the entrance for the public throughway, and then there's fence columns, and then there's fencing, and then there's paving. So is there a concise drawing that shows that? what we're talking about. Because Brian's, which we're looking at the site plan, Brian's drawing shows some stuff,
Right.
but what does your drawing show, and then what does all that look like?
So the brick columns would be as close to, we would do larger columns that looked like the ones that Michael was showing for the LCI there at the entrance at the brick plaza.
So all of your fence columns will look like that.
That same scale for the front, that same scale for the entrance. And then,
Pedestrian entrance.
yes, and then scaled down for the other columns in between the ornamental fence along the frontage, but the same materials. So it would be still same brick, white brick, cast cap.
Is there a drawing that shows that layout?
Not the layout other than the landscape plan.
But now you just said painted brick versus there's some red brick.
The red brick, I believe, is remaining from a previous rendering from what was approved at city council, because that we were told to stay with that same, but it would be white brick, not the red that was previously in city council.
Is it
Becau-
white brick or is it painted white brick?
It would be white. It would be white brick. And we do have samples with it. It would be the same. It would be one of the same bricks that would be used for some of the building elevations. So same company, same manufacturer, and the lightest brick that they have.
So I'll ask a question for Michael here.
Okay, never mind.
So one of the council conditions was streetscape, this is item number 4, streetscape including decorative fence with columns and landscaping shall be developed substantially similar to the submitted renderings by Tracy Ward.
Correct.
And yes, yeah.
And the columns on that decorative fencing along the frontage, along South Main Street, was the red brick. The intent, we shared with the applicant the monument for South Main Street LCI, and the intent of sharing that with them was we liked their arch structure that they had at the pedestrian entrance access over to Wills Park, but we wanted the brick to match the brick that was on that monument for South Main Street LCI. The intent was not for them to change the columns associated with their decorative fencing. So it should be substantially similar to the elevations that are in your packet. The council elevations that they saw with the red columns and the decorative fencing in between, that's what should be proposed there. Correct.
Yeah, yes, I did see that, the arched inspiration. Okay. All right.
I don't remember seeing the council conditions. I know there are some. Did we get a copy of those? Okay, because I can't find the email.
Yeah, they were emailed to us separately, or Tracy, or Michael did, I guess. Yes.
I can't find them. I have all the
Okay.
phone works, but I cannot find it.
So now Monday at 10:31 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm looking at your rendering and I'm not seeing fencing or columns. See a lot of green.
So these were the images that the applicant showed to city council at the time of the zoning. And I'm going quickly through them just so I can get us to the brick columns with the fencing. This is what's shown, what they showed to council. That was the intent, was that those columns and the fencing be substantially similar to what you see in this image. We provided this monument, which is meant for the public access over to Wills Park. So where they have that semicircle out by the road, there would be these monuments. So that South Main Street LCI really was trying to get access back over to Wills Park. And to do that, we wanted to have these identifying monuments at each of those connections over to Wills Park. The applicant proposed an arch with 2 columns with a metal arch over top of that, which we liked. All we wanted the applicant to do to that arch was to use this color brick so that we had consistency along South Main Street. This color brick was not meant to apply to the columns on along their frontage.
I get that. Where is that on the drawing?
This structure,
On her drawings, where is the layout of the columns, the arch, and all of that?
That would have been L2, but I just should have done a whole different, because it is getting buried by the landscape.
All I see on L2, and I've zoomed way in, is I see the fence symbol, with the square. That's all I see.
And then there are larger columns in there in the fence symbol, and they're spaced at about 40 or so feet to get 8-foot fence panels in there.
So I'm zooming in you're on the upper one.
If I put it on here, I guess.
So we can move on. I'm not seeing it. Then I zoom in, I see something about a brick screen wall and.
Oh, thank you.
Right before it hits the mulch.
Yeah.
I think that's
So where are the fence columns?
So they're,
when you zoom way in.
they are, there's one here. Oh, sorry. One here. And then there's a larger white space here, column. That's one of them. I tried to offset them with the larger trees to give them the most root space without having the foundations of the columns, and try to offset it then with the landscaping.
Are you looking for a picture of
No.
the picture of the column?
Just a larger scale,
Just
probably, so we can
just a
actually see
layout.
them.
A clear
Like
layout.
So, you redlined that. Is there really a column right next to the brick walk and there's not one on the other side?
Sorry, I'll go. So there's one here. There's one here. One here. Here. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
off a little bit.
All right, we can move on and.
Quick, don't leave that drawing. What drawing is that labeled?
L2.
That's not the same L2 that we have in our package.
Oh.
Not. No, it's a different drawing. Did you?
This is the L2. I'm projecting it now.
Yes.
That's L2. That's the same L2.
Yeah, this one is updated by the, and ours is the 5.5. Maybe they took the wood privacy fence away.
Yeah, that's why I was referring to on the west side.
Let me get
there was
Brett
a-
on the phone.
Ours has
yeah.
Okay, so there's why I'm not seeing it. 'Cause
Yeah, board members, I think part of where the confusion is coming is what is in your packet. There were updated slides that were sent for the presentation. That's what you're seeing on the monitors right now. Okay? I don't know if, I'm guessing Brett did not upload that information into the packet. So it is the most current slides that we have, or the most current imagery we have, is what is on your monitor at this time.
Okay,
So I apologize for not understanding why.
so we can come back to it, but
Okay.
you can see where we're going. We want to know what the walls look like, where the columns look like, where's the fence look like, where do they go, all of that. And there's just not a concise drawing that really provides that information. And, I'm all about what does that look like from the right of way, and what does that archway really look like? What is, I see some inspiration, but I want to know, there's inspiration, then there's what's really going to be. So that's why I'm focused on all that stuff. And somehow got off of Brian's site plan drawing and really got in the weeds, pun intended.
Yeah.
Doesn't give the visual of like how tall the arch is or anything like that.
Oh,
Is that what you want to see more?
absolutely.
And are you still proposing a wooden fence or? have you
Ms.
removed
Rocco,
that?
microphone, please.
Are you still keeping the wood fence or have you removed that?
That was the last, I understood it to still have had the wood fence, mainly as additional screening just between the units and the back of the Waffle House, but, that
Okay.
was.
It's removed off the one presented.
I mean, it makes sense over there.
It's the back side, it's their mechanical side, and the Waffle House, if I remember correctly, sits a little bit lower than our site, so it was just, supposed to benefit both sites, to just kind of screen side of building from.
Metal fence? Yep, what do you mean metal fence? Like a picket? Metal picket? Black metal? Doesn't matter to me. Not if it's Waffle House.
So just plain.
Yeah. So one last question for Mr. Woodman. Would there not to be, they would have to heavily screen that anyway? I don't know, Waffle House would, but this applicant wouldn't, mix uses side by side,
I believe
mix
there was,
zoning side by side.
I believe there was a condition where we ran the sewer up through and it was reduced to 5 feet landscape strip.
Okay?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So I didn't have the council conditions either, but was there any requirements to screen commercial from residential zoning
Along that west side?
along that, yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
along that west side?
So, council condition 11, down here at the bottom of this page,
Hey, there they are.
talks about the landscape strip along the west property line shall be planted as depicted on the easement planting plan labeled Exhibit B, which the planting plan that is on that landscape plan does match that Exhibit B. With
Okay.
final approval by staff, a double row of evergreen trees and shrubs shall be planted along the east property line as approved by staff. So
By
that's
staff,
the
okay.
other one. There was nothing in there that required the privacy fence, and that's not something that we would want to see out by the road.
Just for clarification, wood fence, no wood fence?
No offense.
Just planting? Okay.
Makes it easier to walk to Waffle House. Did you get that in the recording?
I was advocating for their own needs, but,
So back to the site plan, lighting, is there pole lights, is there anything like that? Is there trash dumpsters? Where's that?
It's
Not at all?
private trash, they'll be bringing the cans
Private?
into, yeah.
Is there any lighting on site, pole lights?
I'll leave that to Sam. I think it's just gonna be wall mount.
You get it?
We were told it's not required for DRB review. We were told it's not required for DRB review.
I'm not asking if it's required, I'm saying, are you putting any lighting in?
We will definitely, we will have satellite.
Pole lights, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so where would
So-
those be going? And what would they look like?
We can present those to staff. We don't have a answer now.
Okay.
So, just to get back to some of the council conditions and fencing and so forth, I do see, let's see, council condition number 12, project entrances shall include a decorative paver apron, landscaping, decorative wall, and/or fencing with columns as approved by the DRB. All right, and then item 17, condition 17, fences and walls visible from the public right-of-way shall be decorative as approved by staff. Unfinished wood fences and decks shall not be visible from the street. But again, that's going to be by staff. The fences and walls visible from the public right-of-way. So,
Well, except item 12 says approved by DRB.
And that's maybe that's the difference. That says project entrances.
Right, and decorative wall and/or fencing with columns,
All right.
right?
I think both DRB and staff need to know what's going on.
Right. That's the bottom line.
And that's weird when it starts going by staff, DRB, by staff, DRB. Yeah, which is a little.
Okay.
So are we ready to move on to that stuff?
Yeah.
Architecture, I mean.
Yeah, let's move on. Do we want to do landscaping while we've?
What about AC compressors? Air
and-
conditioning compressors?
And
They're on the roof.
Yeah, all the SU units will be on the roof.
Okay, so
That's item number is 18. HVAC and similar equipment shall not be visible from the public right of way. So,
it's going to be on the roof, so I guess
so
so you get a, how do you put on, I guess there's a well, you have a well in the roof to put the compressor? So you can't, from the right of way, it's just going to look like a regular residential roof, right? We're not going to see screens or.
it's a flat roof.
It has a parapet, and the parapet is going to be taller than the equipment.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, okay. So it's down behind the parapet.
Yeah, it's going to be covered by the parapet.
Got it. Okay.
All right. While we've been on the site plan for so long, why don't we go ahead and jump to the landscaping plan now that we're very familiar with the site plan. Yes, get into
You're up, Sarah.
the green stuff.
I want to talk about the hardscape first.
Taking notes, sorry.
Sarah, can you start
Yes.
with the hardscape?
Start
Especially
with the hardscape.
that pedestrian entrance, that arched paving, what that is, what that arch looks like.
Okay. No samples. Well. Oh, okay. Samples, if we had any samples.
So what's that paver?
The paver would be a red brick paver. As far
And
as,
what does it look like?
no sample for that. But then it would have the stone and white brick masonry columns similar to the South Main LCI entrance with a iron or metal sign that arches over with the Wills Overlook development.
And what does that look like?
Similar in style to the one in Alpharetta, but not fully fleshed out as far as font or anything like that.
Okay, and so the pavers themselves, it's a brick paver. Is there an edge to it? Is it plug into just regular concrete sidewalk?
Yes, it ties into the concrete sidewalk that would be existing from the GDOT improvements.
Okay.
And
then
then
it
also on the
crosses-
other side.
Crosses your road,
Mhm.
and then it
And then we would
turns
have
into
our,
mulch?
yes, but it would be an engineered wood mulch.
What does that mean, engineered wood mulch?
Similar to what is used in playgrounds and considered ADA accessible.
Okay. So is there plans to replenish that as time goes by?
We would add that into a maintenance,
Okay. And
maintenance
then
plan.
there's a fence that borders, it looks like you're trying to fence in that access.
Yes, kind of provide some sort of channelization and direction to people to actually get to the park.
What does that fence look like?
That would be a shorter ornamental iron fence, about 36 inches, 32, 36 inches, that would
What's it look
match
like?
the same.
Do you have an example of that?
No.
And then there's a brick screen wall suspended between brick columns with a cast stone cap.
That is a leftover label, I believe.
Okay.
Which drawing are you seeing this on, Pat? So that we
The
can-
one in the packet.
Okay. That's L2.
Okay.
It sounds like you're now saying it's brick columns with a decorative metal
Yes.
fence
Yes.
between them.
Yes, that was misleading when we were thinking that the whole elevation was brick instead of the metal, which is much better.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Correct. Do we need the new L2 That's what he's.
It should have been in the ones from 510.
There it is.
There we go. I think what's apparent is we're going to need some clarification on where the fence goes and where the, and pictures of what we're doing here, so.
Yes.
Okay.
So it needs to be specific. Inspiration's great.
Yeah, well, yeah, I could
But
actually put
that's
it
a
on
pretty
there, put it to
subjective-
scale. Yes.
No, I want to see the samples, and I'd like to see all this ties back into the architecture behind it, and the columns. Do those columns actually tie back into the architecture behind it?
What color mulch?
All that good stuff. And I get it. The city wants that right there at the pedestrian entrance, but do those all really tie into everything else and just the fencing? So anyway. The landscaping looks good.
Thank you.
The one question I have is, do the street trees tie into any other streetscape that's along that section of Main Street?
So there aren't currently, I went further west to another development that has been, I guess, built, it's the, I want to say the more senior residential
So on
center further
the
to
other
the
side of
west.
Wills Road there? Or you-
Same side of South Main? Yes,
okay,
yes,
but
I'm
just-
sorry, yes.
Just further west of, on down Wills Road there.
And
okay.
they had, if I remember correctly, they had black gums paint, Tupelo there along the frontage. So I incorporated
Yep, you got them.
those in there intermittently along with the larger Shumard Oaks.
Okay. I mean, you're establishing the streetscape, if you will.
Yes.
Okay.
But still trying to, keep it somewhat, consistent with what they have, just to kind of carry it further down
Sure.
the street.
And I don't have it in front of me. Is there council conditions that I need to?
There is another one that says, council condition number 14, creeping vines shall be planted to cover retaining and low walls as approved by staff.
Yeah, the only thing the DRB really is settled with is the architecture and colors and then the fencing, from what I could tell.
And the project entrances.
Yeah. Everything else is staff.
But again, all this information obviously would be helpful for us, but it'll be helpful for staff too as they go to give final approval on this. Okay, any other landscaping comments at this point?
The planting selection is an admirable blend of deciduous shrubs and evergreen shrubs. They work well together. It's going to be interesting all year.
Thank you.
Okay, and I would say, we did talk about if there's some decorative lighting or site lighting, that would be good for us to see as well.
Okay.
And what the layout of that looks like. Okay. Okay, well then let's jump to the architecture of the,
Thank you.
on the townhomes.
Thanks, sir.
and Look at the elevations and materials, please.
Maybe we should clarify what we're doing with this one.
Okay,
All right.
I think that's probably good.
On the buildings, we kept the overall design as it was approved at zoning, with the building grouped into 4 units per building. And the buildings, each unit is staggered 2 feet from the next unit, so they go back and forth. The one big difference we have on the elevations compared to what was at the zoning was there was a request to add more brick. And we've done that by adding a full brick facade on some of the units and keeping siding on some of the units. We're using a variety of brick colors to sort of give each unit an individual look, but we've kept the same line for the parapet to tie the units. So even the units that have siding, they do have masonry base. So all the lower levels will have stone base, and then the siding will start from the upper floors. The garage, even the garage doors, they each have an individual look. There's the same sort of style, but they have different ornamentation on them. There was a request to show a four-sided unit, and we have windows extending on the sides, and we're showing the units. Can you go to the back? This is the front, where each the treatment of the entrances has been maintained like it was approved by the drawing done by Tracy Woods. The garage doors, again, we maintain the same style. We made them sort of individual to each unit. Some units do have balconies fronting the main street, but the balcony is recessed in, so the facade sort of remains flat, but with the balconies recessed in. These are the side facades, and wherever we have brick, we're extending the brick all the way, and we have windows to enhance the facade. Wherever we have siding, we're still putting the lower level as masonry and then the siding on top. This is the elevation looking towards Wills Park. It's actually going to be primarily the main extension to the park, and we're adding a lot of balconies at each level for them to be able to enjoy the park and access the park. We are proposing to use a variety of bricks and siding to make each unit stand on its own, while keeping the overall profiles of the units similar. But the use of different brick will sort of make each unit stand on its own.
So, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt just a minute. This must be an updated version. The sample colors and materials we're looking at is different than what's in our packet. Okay, so just FYI, folks.
Yeah, there should be the same
we got
material, they
fewer-
just laid out different.
Fewer siding colors.
We went from 10 to 8.
Okay, just an observation here. Sorry to interrupt, but
No, you can. Thank you. We're showing us roof shingle there. That's for the existing house. The existing house currently has metal, and we're planning to do roof shingle on that. But that's a different application. We're going through a historic application. It's not. We had that as a material package for all the buildings that are going to be done on site, and that's why it's included in this set.
So on that slide, so does the CS1 go with the B1 and the CS2 go with the B2? Is that
Yes. The main thing is whenever we have a CS,
Different siding colors.
Yeah.
well, I understand that, but what is the CS1 siding colors? Are those supposed to go with the B1 brick? Is that-
Each unit, since it has 4 units, we're anticipating using at least for each building to have 2 units that have siding. They might alternate, they might be combined, and 2 units to have brick. So whenever we have two units, we want one unit to have a CS1 and the other one a CS2. So they're not the same. So they're sort of.
Oh, so one will be CS1, one will be the next is B1, then CS2, then
Yes.
B2. Okay.
I don't know that that's the way I understood that it's going to be. My understanding is, and let me jump in here, is I'm going to buy one of these townhomes. I come in and say, oh, I like the General Shale Cortez brick, and I'm going to buy unit number 2. So that's what's going on that. Then that's going to be proposed to staff to make sure that's approved. But then Frank could come in and say, oh, I want the unit beside me to be General Shale Winter Haven brick, for instance, and then that's got to go to staff for approval. You follow me?
Excuse me, this
Or
is
is that-
not the intent for the developer. We will not allow buyers to select the external color or texture for each of the units. whatever we present and get approved by staff during permitting will go. The selection will be on the inside, but not on the outside. We will not allow anybody to change the selection on the outside.
It seems like,
Okay.
if I were logically looking at this, CS1, the first color that we're seeing all the way to the left would go with Bradford Hall Tudor. The second one would go with General Shale. The third one would go with, right? So it looks like it's all going to be decided beforehand.
Up front.
And,
Yes, ma'am.
And the buyer has nothing to do with the exterior.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All
So
right,
so it would be helpful to know sort of like the colors. I mean, what we're seeing in our packet, are those the colors that are together, or is a designer going to say, I'm going to put Winter Haven with this tan one?
We thought that was something that we'll present later on during design development when the design is complete for staff approval. And what they approve is what we go with.
So
There'll be no changes.
So you're looking for us today to just say if we're okay with this kind of color palette?
Correct.
Yes.
Sure.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But this is not, this one's going to go on this house, like? Okay.
Absolutely not.
Well, that's
All right.
a different story.
Yes, that was it. Okay. All right. So where was that? Do you have the actual sample board somewhere? I know you held something up. Why don't you just, okay. All right, and then do you have, and you've got the brick samples too there as well,
Multiple
don't you?
examples, yeah.
All right, why don't you just take a moment to lay all those out for us so we can kind of see what, in reality, what they look like. Okay. Very good, thank you.
I like the range of colors that you have because an earlier note that came to the board members told us that we were going to be looking at your selection of colors, and in my mind, I was thinking Rainbow Row in Charleston, but that's not at all what we have here. We've got a nice blend.
All right, let's do this. Who's got control of the monitoring? Go back to the color sample board that we were looking at on our monitor. And then it's going to take a team here. So walk through us like the different bricks that we have. As you call out the name, if somebody can hold up that brick and just show us which one that is. Okay? It's gonna take, again, it's gonna take a Wheel of Fortune type of a arrangement here.
And if you
Somebody's gotta-
would,
Susie is the best.
pause as you do it, because we also have to stream all this out. So I'm gonna be swapping back and forth between that and
Well,
camera views, so just,
I wasn't trying to
Give me a-
complicate your.
that's okay, just give me a couple of seconds on each one, I'll be good.
Okay. So, all right, let's start with the brick. All right, let's start with the brick samples. All right, so the first brick sample is, somebody call that out and then somebody hold it up for us to see, please.
Brick sample, General Shale, Bradford Hall Tudor.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
General Shale Cortez.
This one.
Okay. All right.
General Shale, Winter Haven.
And am I to understand that's also with that brick column? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Cardora. From a distance, they look alike. They're different colors, trust me.
Okay.
Triangle Brick, Linville, B2.
Okay. All right.
Triangle Brick, Southampton.
No, I think we can do different colors. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be tooled, a tool joint instead of an oozed joint.
This is the.
Which one is that? Southampton, Triangle Brick, Southampton in Susie's hands. General Shale, Logan Canyon.
Okay. All right. And then,
And the last one, General Shale, Spanish Moss Blend.
all right, very good. Okay,
Thank you for bringing those, because there is a distinction in the flat, two-dimensional images we have and the bricks themselves, the actual bricks.
okay. And then, you've got the stone then?
Yes.
That's the stone sample, okay. And that appears to be the base for most or all of the units? For the units with siding, that's the base material. That's the first floor or the lower level. Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. And then just, let's look at the siding colors just quickly, that board that you got there, just so we can see the actual color samples. Sometimes they're different than what's on our
So
monitors.
these are the actual samples that we got from them. This exactly
From
Okay.
Hardy.
from Harding.
Okay, very good. And then in the bottom right, our bottom right, your bottom left, looks like there's a paint sample or
It's
something else.
gutters,
This is the gutters.
Okay,
and the next one is trim for columns and garage doors.
okay,
And this is the sample of the garage door.
The
Well,
garage
that's the
door
garage
comes,
Okay.
it can be painted any color, but that's what
perfect.
the supplier provided us, a white sample.
Is there
Okay.
only 2 different garage options?
Actually, there are more.
There are
shown,
more?
There's 4.
4 of them. That's
you're-
one.
Same company, what they changed the pattern
face.
on the
You're not concerned it's gonna get too busy?
Again,
They're all white.
we'll present it to staff, and if we get comments that we need to
Got it.
tone it down and make it less busy, we will do that.
And the windows, are those painted the dark, like the gutter, or like the
Correct.
gutter color?
Dark color, yeah.
And the railings, are those like wood, white, or painted the same as the garage? Light?
Why don't you, who's got control of the monitor again? Why don't you pull up one of the renderings, maybe the front elevation, just to, as we're talking about some of the other, there you go. Oh, there, perfect. Oh, that one.
If we're talking about railings, I would do the other one, the front side or back side. The Wills Park side.
So, we're not changing.
Keep going. It's A1.3.
Well, hold on just a little. I know you.
Go back, A1.3.
No, let's don't go into.
One more. There we go.
All right.
There's all the railings. All right.
All right, so this is the Wills Park elevation then, okay. And somebody was talking about the handrails or the railings, and what they look like in the columns.
And those will all be painted that white color?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Or if they change it, they'll present it to staff for approval, right? So we're just approving the color concepts.
Yes.
So the same would be true for the front elevation, which face Main Street.
For the railing,
Any
yes.
of the railings all have to be the same color throughout, which is the white color.
And the doors?
Yes.
Are the doors white?
It's all gonna be presented to staff, like they're not done with the design yet. So we just have to approve the color concepts that are presented, that's it.
Yeah, the garage doors will be white.
Okay. All right. Quick question, on the brick, on the units that have brick, the headers and the sills for the windows, it looks like, what are you planning to use there? Is it a soldier course? Is it, something looks, almost looks like a herringbone or something on the
We're going to have a masonry header.
masonry.
Yes, a
All
masonry
right,
header.
define
But-
masonry.
Uh,
Is that a solid stone or is
Yeah.
that a brick mason?
we want to have the option of either using brick or cast stone header, which would match the brick if you use a cast stone.
Okay. I guess that's something that staff's gonna look at. I'm looking at Mr. Woodman over there. He's nodding his head, yes, okay.
The easier option would be to do just brick headers, which would match the seal, the brick seal we have at the bottom.
Okay. And then for any units, will they have any lights, exterior lighting on these units?
If there are any lights, it will be at the entrance, just at the ceiling, because the entrance does protrude out some. We can have a light there. In this, yeah.
Any ceiling fans?
Exterior
porches?
ceiling fans
That's probably a homeowner.
at
putting
the
that in after
balconies.
the fact.
Ceiling fan. Yeah, we can do that.
On the Wells Park side, there's not. Those are actual balconies.
All right, so let's see, there's a total of 16 units, right?
Yes, sir.
16 units. There's, how many brick samples were there?
8.
8. So there's 8. And then how many siding colors are there? 8?
8. Yeah. But
So it's almost like you're gonna have one of each,
that's the intent.
2 of each, maybe.
Yeah. But they
Oh, one
they
of
sort
each
of
is-
blend
One.
so much.
right? You'll have, because you've got 8 siding colors, you'll have 8 units with siding.
That's the intent, yes.
And then you have, out of the 16 units, you have 8 with brick and you have 8 different brick types.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so,
So you're basically intending to use all of these materials. You just haven't decided which one goes on which.
Yes, and
Unit,
the intent is to sort of blend. We don't want a repetitive pattern, and we want it like we don't want the same scenario where we have brick siding. We don't want.
Yeah.
One building might have that, but the next building would have a different combination.
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, that light bulb just went off
Okay, yeah.
up above my head when I realized that we've got,
Well, the other thing is the house. Maybe we talk about the house.
and we're not,
Correct.
that's gonna be the historic, our historic
And the
board.
designer will probably tie all that together. in the
Well, we
report, right?
certainly hope they do.
I'm sure the developer wants to see it beautiful.
Okay. All right. Okay, take a deep breath. Any other comments or questions before we start some motions? And before we start motions, is there any public comment about this application? Any public comment? No public comment. Okay, let's start crafting some motions
All
here.
right, Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 230024 Wills Overlook. A motion to approve the elevation of materials as a design guide under the following conditions. The elevations will be substantially similar to those presented to City Council. The final material selection for each unit will be approved by staff. End of motion.
A second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Swing, a second by Mr. Owens. Any,
Well, there's a council condition that says the elevations must be substantially similar to what was presented to the city, which is what that is. So
This
I'm
is
just
more
refer-
refined than that.
I'm just referencing back to the city council condition.
And you stated what was presented today, correct? Not what was in our packet? 'Cause
I didn't say either,
Okay,
but yes, the
But your
intent, the intent is what was presented today.
okay.
okay. Any other questions or comments about the motion? All right, there being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, we've got the exterior elevations and materials done. We're not doing site plan, but we are doing landscaping, so whoever's crafting that motion.
Mr. Chairman, regarding the landscape plan, it's a concept rendering. To whom would we direct the approval of the brick fence as to details that are presented to further illustrate what that's going to be? Do we include that here?
Yes, and they need to, according to the council conditions, we need to approve that.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure we know what they're proposing to do.
Would that be a deferral for that review?
I would recommend, yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, regarding the landscape plan, because we reviewed a concept rendering today, I move that we defer the final approval of the materials for the brick and railing fence and the other brick materials to a future meeting for our review. End of motion.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Owens, a second by Ms. Palmer.
So specifically, we're talking about all the hardscape materials. We're talking about the flat work. We're talking about the fencing, fence columns, and the specifics of those where we need material samples, specifically material samples, specific photos.
Or some sketches or drawings or something.
Yeah,
that shows.
something that is not, something that's specific. So I keep saying that word. And I suppose the mulch as well.
And that arch, details on what that entranceway is going to look like
Yep.
for Wills Park.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
But overall, the landscaping looks good conceptually.
Plant materials seem fine. I
Okay.
don't think that wasn't an issue today. I don't think.
Okay, all right.
It's everything that's non-plant material.
Do we know what the screening for the Waffle House, since that fence isn't there anymore?
It's a planted screen now.
Landscaping.
Like they're gonna propose it, they can come back and show us, I think, because it was on one, but not on another.
I saw it. It looked okay to me.
He said
Yeah.
that they were not proposing it, so I think they just have to be clear on if they are or not.
Well, then, one of the council conditions talks about unfinished wood decks and, or wood fences and decks shall not be visible from the street, so,
Well, there is no wood fence.
There is no wood fence now.
right. Okay. Well, this will be, when they come back, they'll share all the details with us, and we'll be
Yep.
very clear on what direction.
What would be helpful is if there's a council condition in there, that you state that in your drawings and then state how you've addressed each one of those in you know, in a line item or, you know, menu items or however you want to list that.
Okay, very good. There being no further questions or comments about the motion, we'll vote on the motion now. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, very good. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it. That could be,
They didn't present.
anything, so. Well, but there is no light well. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll tell you what. Next applicant is Honda Carland. If you can get ready to present, we're going to take a 5-minute recess to stretch our legs, stand up, get the blood flowing again, and we'll be right back. So, jumping jacks.
come over there if we need it.
Well, no, you can take it down here. Because I just had to stop and think, do I need it for anything right now? If they ask for like a street view or something, then I'll, hey. This mic is here if you need it. And that remote will control the slides when I pull them up on.
Do you just go back and forth? Just
Yeah.
back and forth? Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, wait, this is Pat.
Okay, we ready? Ready?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay. All right, let's get going again. We'll end our recess and get back to our applications here. So next up is Honda Carland. Good morning. Welcome. If you'll make sure you speak into the microphone, introduce yourselves, and then give us an overview of what we have in our packet today, please.
Hi,
Hello.
my name is Brittany Cooper, and we are presenting Honda Carland Service Center. And it's
Hey,
today.
Brittany?
Sorry?
What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Brittany Cooper.
Thank you.
And from the architects, there's Sarah Butler and myself. And then we have Dave Blackley with landscape. And from the dealership, we have Guy McRee and Charlie Alicardi. And so what we have is an existing service center, and we're bringing the facade up to Honda's new corporate image. And they have not had an image update in over 20 years, and so their new standards are very tech forward, and this will be one of the first dealerships in the country to receive the new branding. Let me move over. So here you can see the existing conditions. I'm sure all of you all have seen Hondas as you drive by. They used to have the Wave. Most of them still do. And so we're not changing much except for unifying the facade and just updating the finishes to get a refresh. We're not changing anything to the site, really. Everything's remaining the same. And then once you get to the facades, the upper one is the front facade that you'll really notice the most. It's the one facing the main road. And you'll see that we're unifying that facade by pulling out the interstitial part where the customer would enter to align the rest of the front. And this is all very deliberate by Honda's standards. And they're wanting to be very tech forward and think Apple. Whenever you think going into a car dealership, you want high tech, just like Apple is high tech in their field. And also,
Brittany, the east elevation is the front elevation?
yes.
Thank you.
And by pulling this forward, we're also, and adjusting the height of the roof line, we're also able to get a little more glazing in there to create this kind of jewel box that the customer can enter through and become, pull from the exterior to the interior in this new service tech center. And the owners are investing quite a bit of money to bring this to be a state-of-the-art facility with new EV charging program, and the entire facade is supposed to be a reflection of this new modernization. And the new blue portal that you see coming around is supposed to be a canopy of sorts, and that's part of the Honda program their new prototype as well. And you can see as we're moving to the south elevation, you get part of that blue portal. And the only thing that we're doing other than that are taking the existing finishes and replacing them one for one with just a refresh. So that way the community will get a brighter, cleaner looking building from all sides. And as you move around, the north elevation is the rear facade, or the west elevation is the rear facade. And we'll be replacing those full vision sectional doors. And this is the same on the front as well, just to make sure that we get that incorporation of bringing light all through the building where the customers will be seeing. And everything else is, again, just replacing one for one with fresh finishes. And here you can see our sightline study from the road. We're about, we have from a 5-point vantage view, you won't be able to see any of the new RTUs due to that new canopy frame. And then here are some perspective views of that.
Why don't you hold,
Oh, sorry.
let's go back. All right, let's stay on the exterior elevations and materials for right now.
Sure.
Looks like you've got your sample board in front of you on the easel there as well.
Yes.
So walk us through, if you will, say the, I guess the old Milton elevation or the east elevation. Walk us through where the materials are on the, what we've got on our monitor and then what you have on your materials board, please.
So everything along through this field is the EIFS 2, and this is a Honda standard. It's very neutral and very close to what's already existing out there. The CMU water table is not part of their program, but they've agreed, since that's kind of the language of the road, that we can keep this as it is existing, but we'll just replace it one for one, and that will be.
So you're replacing that?
Yes, we're replacing all the finishes. We're going to strip it down to studs and replace with new finishes, so it's clean and fresh and bright.
So because there is a stone base now or a
We're replacing it with the same thing.
or a split face block there now.
Yes, it'll be split. It'll be the exact same thing.
Okay, but then you're painting that. So you're
Yes.
putting the split face in, painting that. Okay.
Yes.
And then you've got the I call the IFAS, okay,
Mhm.
kind of body, so to speak.
Yes.
All right. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
And then along here is that new portal that Honda's created that creates like a canopy eyebrow over the front customer areas. And that will be this MCM1 blue. That's the Honda blue. And then we do have a small trim of the ACM along the rest of the building. That will be new, that's not already there in terms of finishes, but it's just gonna be like a thicker band than just the trim that normally would be at the top. And that is gonna be this white color that goes well with the EIFS. And then we have our brake metal trim along the top, and all of the curtain wall and full vision sectional doors will be this black. And then just your typical glass that abides to the codes, the energy codes.
Okay. All right. I know you have a building sign right now. Are you proposing to put a building sign on?
Yes, that will be part of another package. We're not doing that.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where it would go, right?
There's a large sign in the parking lot that will come down and meet all your new requirements.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Let's turn the corner if we can, maybe on our monitors. I see the south elevation. Just
Over there, sorry, getting over a little bit of a sickness. Over on the south elevation, you can see where you'll see part of the blue frame, and then the rest of it is going to be similar to this portion where you just have the CMU water table, the EIFS coming up to there, and then you have your MCM band around the top, which is all the same as it was before, except for this metal band around the top.
In the existing buildings, some of the doors have the blue, looks like blue metal awnings. Will you have any awnings or anything over any of the doors?
We're planning on keeping all of those and just replacing one for one. And if the GC comes out and sees that there's any issues with those, we'll replace.
And will they be blue?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
the Honda Blue.
So going back to the, I'll call it the east elevation, the existing building had some ins and outs to it along the front.
Yes.
And now it's all becoming in the same, I'll say, the same plane,
Yes.
essentially.
So
Okay.
originally this came out the furthest, and then this portion from here over was at the same plane, and this portion in the middle was pushed back and lower, and this was pulled out per Honda in order to create a bigger customer space inside, to give them space to like do their work and like create some tables and things like that, because it's a very small area inside. And then by doing this, we can also raise the glass to create that jewel box for them to walk into, and right behind there will be a space for them to sit and kind of have a retreat while they're getting their car work done.
Is that what you call it, a retreat?
Well, a reprieve from driving.
Okay, and as far as, so the existing building has some different parapet heights to it as well.
Yes.
And now the building has just one parapet height at 22 feet.
Yes.
Where is that in relation to the existing building?
It's the existing height of this portion. This.
So you're actually lowering some of the roof then?
No. So,
okay, so
oh,
you
yes,
just-
yes, we're taking off that back. That back is just a fin wall. It's not actually usable. It's
I
just
see.
braced in the back coming down to the roof. So we're just taking off that fin.
Okay.
It's so hard for me to grasp what it's gonna look like from that drawing. I think you, and I might be the only one, I think you've explained it out really well what it's gonna be, but it's hard to,
It's a rectangle.
it just, yeah, it
It's a-
just looks like a
it's-
box. I mean, it's hard to understand what's the far left gonna look like without windows. What's the height of the windows? Are those like the garage doors? It's just hard to kind of grasp the, I guess this one's better.
You want to see like a
But-
drawing, like a real drawing.
Yeah,
Well,
like an
this-
actual.
I think this helps, though. It's
This
interesting
helps.
that blue portal, I didn't realize that, actually protrudes out from the building.
Yes, it does. It can be freestanding. This one will tie back into our structure. But the idea is for that to create a canopy eyebrow over this customer entry space.
If I could say, hello, if I could just say a few words. So this project's a little unique in that this is a standalone service center only. We don't sell cars there. The original facility, although it has a Roswell address, has serviced this community for 50 years. And about 20 years ago, Honda asked us to build a standalone service center to service the customers that had grown that direction. There's only 12 of these in the country. And it served the community well. And this is their design. This is Honda's design image. We don't get a whole lot of choice. It'd be a lot less expensive to do what they're asking us to do, but we do want to look like we're supposed to. They're sort of using the Apple store concept with the glass, the square. There is one dealership in the city that's in Gwinnett Place that has done this new design. We just rebuilt Honda Carland in Roswell in the last 3 years. Unfortunately, it was the last design standard. So it's not nice to know that we spent all that money and now we're looking at a new design in another 15 or so years, but that's how it works. So, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And the part that doesn't have the windows, that's like their parts, it says parts and all that, so you don't want to see that.
Is there signage going to be on here at all?
Yes, there will be signage. That's part of another package that we're not involved with. I mean, we are. Mhm.
But will it be, okay, will it maybe be on that far left that's
Yes.
all blank?
It
Okay.
will take up
Okay.
a
so that'll
good
fill
portion
that
of that. We were told to
Well-
remove it for this one.
It's interesting,
you're
they
reviewing
do have the storefront glass on your existing facility now,
Yes.
and it's filled up with carlandservicecenter.com and pictures and all that stuff, so. Okay. Yeah. Becomes a big billboard rather than,
A
It
retreat.
looks very clean to me. And
That's a good way to say it, Holly.
you said the black is for the panes like in the garage doors and all that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's just for
I just
any
wanna make
metal
sure.
that goes around there. And the inside will be butt glazed, so it won't have any in between as
Okay.
mullions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna weigh in saying I like the movement on the existing building more than taking everything and leveling it out and flattening it out, you know? Yeah, it looks, I mean, I understand wanting to freshen it up, maybe you can make it look a little more high-tech, but, I'm sure they have a lot of high-paid people they get to figure these things out, but I'm not sure how this looks better than what you got now. You know, usually, you know, this is, I mean, a lot of times when we're looking at designs, we're actually trying to get people to introduce some movement in the facade, right? And different, and this is going the opposite way, taking out the movement that's there. Just wondering if there's a middle of the road here that does some of what they're trying to do, but doesn't
Can we
totally make it a flat rectangle.
Are you talking about breaking up the long roof line?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even if that middle section is brought out, you know, and you ran that frame around there, we could keep some heights in the roof or something, parapet.
Are you able to switch to this projector? I don't know if I can zoom it in enough, but this is a, yeah, yeah, it's kind of small. This is a full dealership, so it has an additional louver assembly in front of the blue frame. Since this is a service center, they scale the language back just because it's a smaller building. And you can see the Honda signage.
Obviously not on the glass like that, it would just be on the.
Yeah, on the wall.
You know, actually, this was if I've got my history right, an adopted building into the city of Alpharetta. It used to be part of Fulton County and eventually got annexed into the city. So we actually never saw this original building from the design review board perspective. But yeah, I agree. How can you get some more interest in it? But I'm kind of stuck.
Well, for the purpose of what it is, I like Holly's comment. It's a clean design. Doesn't need to be complicated.
Okay, as far as HVAC units or anything like that, I assume they're probably on the roof now.
Yes, and we're going to 1-for-1 trade them out, trade all of that while we redo the roof. And those, as you could see from the sightline
You
study,
did the sightline study, I know.
the portal will make those out of you.
All right, are you changing out any of the site lighting? I see some poles there now.
Yes, we are not removing any of the poles, not doing anything, just changing them 1-for-1 with LED heads.
Okay, I think I saw a photometrics in there somewhere as well, so.
Yes.
Okay. All right,
And landscape is evaluate and replace, I guess, right?
yes,
Our
there is a landscape plan, somebody did.
All right, so we started by comparing the existing landscape on the site to what was originally approved by Fulton County way back when. And some of the plants were missing, some of the plants had done well, some had done okay. Then I came back with a landscape plan that replaced the missing plants basically 1-for-1. It's not a complete redo, it's really an attempt to reestablish what was originally there. We used some different species of plants, felt like they would be more appropriate.
I guess as you do some of the renovation work, some of the landscaping is gonna be damaged or removed to do the construction. For instance, you've got along the, let's see, on the screen, the left side there, you've got some existing crepe myrtles, for instance.
That is a possibility, and anything that would be damaged during construction, I think would then have to be replaced.
Right.
If that does happen.
In fact, in one of the photos, those crepe myrtles look like they've been cut back.
They've been cut pretty
I mean,
hard.
it's almost like there's nothing left on them.
Two questions. First is any of the other existing streetscape on either side of this, street tree wise, are any of those brought into your upgrades on this to have a more consistent streetscape?
No, what's there is not really unified, and what I've gone with are plants that I feel like would do the best in this particular situation. We've got a slope, we've got kind of a tough soil condition, some existing shrubbery we're working inside of. So we've done our own thing here.
I'm looking at the area, excuse me, Pat.
So did you take into account any of the trees on the outside and then try and bring any of those in there?
I didn't use any of the same species. I certainly made sure we weren't right on top of somebody else's plant material, and that was particularly true on the left side over there.
And then second question is, how important are your sight lines into your site?
Well, they are important, and the original landscape plan really had a lot of trees across the frontage, some of which have not survived to this day, and so we've replaced them. But it is I need to switch over to the.
So to follow up that question, you don't have to have the marching soldiers of trees. You can group trees to create sight lines in, especially as North Point plugs into State Bridge. You can create your sight lines. You don't have to have trees every 25 feet, 30 feet on that frontage.
The gaps are are not consistent. I mean, but it is. There are no new places to put trees on the site since we're not doing any site work. If I was doing a site from scratch, that's not how I would have approached it. But I really didn't have much room to put trees in, and they're already pretty tight together. I did try to leave some more gaps so you could see into the side a little bit better. And when that pylon sign out front is replaced, we're really going to have to look at the height of that and try to figure out how you see it under the trees, because it's not going to be high enough to see over the trees. There is a challenge on the frontage. There really is.
David, my comment is tangential totally to your design and your plan, but because I grew up in Dahlonega, I'm impressed that your office has a satellite office in Suches.
Yeah, I have a little place up there I work.
Thank you for putting them on the map today.
I guess as we talked about the pole sign comes down, you're gonna do a monument sign, correct?
I don't know that that's been designed yet.
Okay.
But there will be a new sign. I think, if I understand correctly, the existing sign is higher than what would be allowed.
Okay, that's something we would like to see, for instance, and make sure the materials match what you're doing for your new,
James.
your new design. Okay.
I'm asking James, I want to see what the street trees are on either side of this.
Okay.
Just to try and.
James is going to take us on a field trip.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like there's much there now.
I just want to challenge James this morning. He thinks he's all right.
Let's hope it's not a 3-hour tour.
I know.
There we go. All right. All right, we're hovering. Oof. for a landing. Brett? Yes, you're invited back anytime, James.
Based on the way this is going, I will be here for. So I mean, as a for instance, what are the street trees in the view that's on the screen? What are the street trees to the right? There are, looks like maybe maples, right? I can't tell.
Yeah, there's a lot of red maples on this site, and I'm not going back with any new red maples. They just really don't do well in this situation. Yeah, a trident would be a smaller tree that probably could survive these. It's real restricted rooting. The trees on the front, I went with, and I can't remember the species now, a fairly narrow variety of oak, and I went, based on Mr. Schroeder's recommendation, I went out, reached out to a nursery to make sure that these would be available. And it's something that could be limbed up. You could look underneath. And it's something that I think could tolerate. This is a pretty tough urban situation to grow trees in.
Okay, anything else on landscaping? All right, anything else that we haven't looked at?
You currently have a blue bench in the front. Will that be staying?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
It's more for the design. not landscape.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, before we have any motions, is there any public comment about this application? Any public comment? All right, no public comment. Okay. So we've got exterior elevations and materials, and then we've got landscaping. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on DRB 230022 Honda Carland that we approve the exterior elevations as presented today. End of motion.
A second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Rhodes, second by Mr. Owens. Comments or questions about the motion? All right, there being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? 1 opposed. Motion passes 6-1. All right. Landscape.
I'll make a motion regarding DRB 230022 Honda Carland. We approve the landscaping with the condition that the applicant shall make every effort to incorporate existing streetscape theme on either side of this site into the landscape trees along State Bridge Road, subject to staff's final approval. End of motion.
A second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Corkle, a second by Mr. Owens. Comments, questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed? No opposition. Motion passes 7-0. All right.
Do we need to do a photometrics or anything?
Thank you very much.
I think those are, we're okay with those, so. All right, very good. Thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it. All right, next up is Jinya Ramen Bar. Come on up, please, or come on down.
You're the next contestant.
That's right, yeah.
He says it every time in every meeting, I think.
Okay, good morning. Welcome. Make sure you introduce yourself, speak into the microphone, and then give us an overview of what we have in our packet this morning, please.
Good morning. My name is Tarver Siebert. I am an architect working with the owner of Jinya here in Alpharetta, William Chen. He couldn't be here. He's out of town. In a nutshell, the project is to put an enclosure around the existing patio at Jinya Restaurant. And also to put a vestibule around the entry door. So there are two structures. One is a vestibule, and the other is an enclosure. And these are manufactured by the same person the same company that put in the windows at Holmes Restaurant on the patio at Holmes. And so these will look very similar to that. This is the color sample, but let me just describe the situation a little more. If you go to the renderings on the sheet A4.2, I think that'll help describe the enclosure. So there's an existing patio that is surrounded by planters. That patio is essentially the footprint of this new enclosure. Today there's planting. There are boxwoods around the perimeter of that enclosure. Those boxwoods would probably have to move, but then we'd put new boxwoods back to match those existing boxwoods. The walls are essentially triple hung windows that electronically slide down. So when they're in the open position, there's glass at the bottom third of the opening. So that glass would be at about 36 inches high. And then when they close, they actually slide up to close. So there'd be glass, enclosing the whole thing. The roof is, and staying on the walls, there are also retractable window shades that can roll up into the walls. You don't see them when they're open. When they're closed, they would slide down. The rendering shows them as white. They would actually be more of a gray color that would match. They'd be a little bit lighter than this sample. Moving up to the roof also very similar to Restaurant Holmes, is a louvered system where the louvers can rotate when they're closed. They're 90% waterproof. It has its own kind of internal gutter system. And then they can open, and that relieves a lot of wind pressure requirements. And then the vestibule is over the front door. It's about 8 feet wide, 8 feet square, 8 feet wide and 8 feet deep. And it has a pair of double doors. The same materials here. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. Happy to answer any questions you all may have.
I like the geometry of your proposed solution here. And I know your owner is on board with what you've done. The only drawback might be the sight line to his sign from some distance away looking toward his building.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I thought that we may, in a subsequent application, perhaps look at a sign on the door would probably be the best place for an additional sign, which is in the lower left of sheet A4.2, because that's the way you approach. I think most people probably approach that by coming down the sidewalk along the backside of Restaurant Holmes. There's also the great plaza and the tree outside of this, and so I don't know if we would want to move that sign or not. But yeah, I did think about that sign as well. That signage is not part of this application. We haven't gotten to that point yet.
One of the existing site photos shows it's a wood retaining wall. And it's got like the planters that are kind of bleached out and falling apart. Is there a significant? I guess I'll retract significant. There's a grade change along the face of that building, correct?
There is.
So you'll need to replace that wooden wall with another wall, and I've seen something about concrete formed footing.
Yeah, the structure will need some footings to tie into it, anchor it to the ground.
Sure.
And so those wood, it's essentially like a painted treated wood retaining wall, behind which is the floor of the patio, the existing patio. And so that retaining wall will have to get dismantled in places to have the foundation for the new structure. Our intent would be to paint the concrete and have, as the elevation shows, a vertical concrete pier that would pierce the existing wood wall. And we would likely have to replace pieces of that wood retaining wall just because of construction activities. But the idea is that it would be a wood wall, except where there's concrete piers.
So to retain where the wood wall is matching up to the footing, you're tying the wood into that footing. I guess you're just going to abut it.
Yeah, we would just visually, it would just abut.
And then backfill all of that with
gravel.
With gravel and concrete top.
Well, today there are pavers on the top, and I was thinking that we would keep the pavers on the top. The floor is going to be pavers.
Okay.
So those pavers would have to come out. I think the sand would you would dig the sand out. I suspect that it's Schedule 40 stone on top of sand, and then a 4 or 6 inch sand bed, and then those pavers on top of that. So a lot of that would have to get removed to bore the footings, and then we'd put it back.
Okay. I'm just in the existing photo. I'm not a fan of the wood wall.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that. What's exposed once everything comes back out, and I don't mind the structure at all. The structure seems pretty cool. I don't think that's a true representation of what he's described. That top right photo on.
Yeah, the top right photo rendering doesn't accurately show the grade 100%. The grade's a little steeper than that. But in terms of planting, it does show the intent. Today there are boxwoods. If you look at the existing photos, A41 upper right photo, those boxwoods actually get a little bit taller as they kind of march down the hill to align with the top edge of the wood retaining wall.
I always like to see how people maintain things.
Yeah.
They maintain things to the grade.
Right.
Where they should maintain things to the
Right.
structure
level.
behind it.
Right.
But
which started happening, you can
just
see
kind of
on
throw
the
your hands up
lower
sometimes.
right.
Is there a reason why that doesn't continue around the corner? Is there whatever that thing is back there? Is that propane storage back?
I think
it's cage structure.
It is. It may be cooking grease. I think
it looks like there's a path.
There is
there somehow.
Just around the corner.
That's propane.
Yeah.
That's propane for their heaters. Those are propane tanks.
Okay, so they're accessing. I guess that's some sort of.
But you won't need that. You don't see if you look at their standalone heaters out there. They are well used.
Yeah.
The caps are melted.
I just noticed that. Oh,
well,
okay.
and distorted from the heat. But yeah, those are propane tanks in that storage area there.
Yeah.
So that's my concern is that wooden wall, and again, I'm not sure how everybody else feels about it, or whether it's just a necessary evil, or do you try and do something else?
Well, I think we not put some landscaping in front of it too, like boxwoods.
Well, I don't know. That's the one side, and then the new rendering of it and the existing photo of it show nothing going on that side.
Pat, I concur with your point about that. I had to look closely at it in the photograph to determine if it were wood or if it were masonry. What about us including a note in here that they have to keep it up to a certain standard for that material as time goes on?
You mean keep it freshly painted, or
structurally? If there's any structural denigration to it, they have to replace it.
Get Brett on the phone.
He probably won't answer his phone right now.
I think if it's painted and then screened.
Yeah.
If it's painted to match the frame of the patio enclosure and then has screening around it, so you don't really
I'm just not sure, Richard, if we can condition maintenance. I don't think we can.
I do think it's reasonable to, like in the lower right-hand existing photo, to include boxwoods that turn the corner on the backside. I mean, I think that's a reasonable, something that we'd be amenable to doing. And in terms of maintenance, I mean, it's in the restaurant owner's interest to keep all that looking good and working well.
It is, but the existing photo says otherwise.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, I certainly think the planters that are there now have really taken a beating. They've been-
I thought they were upside down trash cans.
No.
Right.
Tarver, I have a question about the entry vestibule.
Mhm.
Is there a way to make that look like the patio enclosure as far as height goes and configuration, so that it looks like they complement each other?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
the patio enclosure looks like it's got a double deck header versus the vestibule just has a single header. If you follow
That's
me.
right. Yes, I believe it could be made taller. What set the height of the structure, of the larger structure, is the precast band that's on the building. So we set the height of this just under that precast band. So we could do the same thing over the entry vestibule.
Yeah,
and push that.
I think you could
up a
look
little higher.
nice, and those entry doors have taken a weather beating too. It's
Yeah.
obvious there.
Yeah.
Carver, can you explain that one more time? Which precast band? You're talking about the one?
Yeah, so if you look at the existing A4 one and the photo on the upper right where the Genia sign is, the
Yep.
bottom of that Genia sign covers up a precast band.
Okay.
And so the new structure goes right to the bottom of that precast band.
Okay.
Right
Gotcha.
up to the bottom. And then,
The new one didn't look like that. The bottom left on A4.2 looks like it almost intersects the glass.
right, no, it comes up to just to the underside of the precast band. And then the new, and we can make the vestibule the same height, match that height.
So are you gonna have to remove these lights, wall lights, sconces?
The sconces will then be inside this enclosure, essentially. They'll be kind of inside the patio. And yes, we'll change those lights. Also inside the patio, the rendering doesn't show it, but there will be heaters and fans and lights. So different things to condition the space. It won't be air conditioned, but there will be built-in heaters so that there aren't those propane tanks on the side of the building anymore.
Or will those be ceiling mounted?
The heaters will be ceiling mounted, yes. And the fans will probably actually be mounted on the wall. The ceilings tend to get really crowded with fans and heaters.
And are they string lights, you said?
We'll put string lights inside.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of details here we might need you to, if we approve this, to submit some things to
Sure.
staff for final review, like the color of the curtains, because we don't
Sure.
have an exact sample of that, and maybe what the heaters and fans and lights look like
Sure.
as well, just so we can get staff to look at that before it's finalized.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions about this application? All right, we want to craft a motion, or before you do that, is there any public comment about this application? Any public comment? All right, no public comment.
All right, Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 230023 Ginya Ramen Bar, motion to approve the patio enclosure and vestibule with the following conditions. Applicant will submit the color of the curtains and any heaters, fans, and lights to staff for final approval. Applicant will maintain the existing pavers that are on the patio. The foundation wall will be planted to match the patio frame and screened with landscaping on all sides. The height of the vestibule will be raised to match the height of the patio enclosure. End of motion.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Swing, a second by Ms. Rocco. Comments, questions
So,
about the?
on landscape, boxwoods were discussed. So the clarification, I think, needs to be in evergreen, and boxwoods were discussed. So I'm assuming boxwoods will be installed. and those shall completely envelop the retaining wall portion of it or the entire structure.
Yes, I did say all sides, but I did not specify the plant
Right.
material. Do we want to do that as a friendly amendment, or?
It was in discussion, so.
I think it's
Fair enough.
inferred.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, their boxwoods there now, so it's essentially, they'll probably damage those and put
Boxwoods
this.
are good.
As long as it's evergreen, you know, and they have the ability to get to 3 feet tall, maintain 3 feet tall.
Yeah, because a little boxwood could be short, and that's definitely
Yeah.
tall, so an evergreen.
And that's a good point, Pat. That form of plant could be 2 or 3 other plant types
Sure.
to fill the bill.
Yeah. So I guess the clarification is evergreen screening.
Sure, I understand and agree.
Okay, any other comments or questions about
Tracy, we
the
don't need anything else in that motion, do we?
foundation height?
So yes, add it.
Yes.
Well, it's in discussion, there'd be boxwoods, that's all. So I think that's assumed on making
All
the
right.
motion.
Any other comments, questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 7-0. All right. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next we have Foamworks, Alpharetta. Come on up, come on down. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman.
Morning.
Hey, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Never mind, go ahead. Actually, go ahead.
okay.
You're good, sorry.
You'll introduce yourself this morning, speak into the microphone, and then give us an overview of what our package has.
It's always fun to be on this side of the podium. My name is Mike Bodker, and I'm here on behalf of Manny Kalianides, the owner of Foamworks. I'm also joined today by Scott Brown, the general contractor, Peter Bilson, who's the landscape architect, Andrew Woodward, the architect, and Jesus Estrada, the civil engineer, and we'll be getting to some of them in a few minutes. As Michael shared with you in the work session, this case was discussed for a very long time in front of City Council, and they were kind enough to put lots of thought into it. And they made many decisions that I think might normally have been handled here at the DRB. To point out a few things, they were very specific that anything other than the brick would be black. So as I'll walk you through in a few minutes, everything within the project is black with the exception of the brick. The brick will remain its original color. It's not being touched. And there is one alteration that will be made to the building, and that is, I call it a portico, because I probably can't pronounce the name as Michael said it.
Portico.
That was where the hand detail was done in the past, and there is no hand detail in this business operation. So that will be removed from the building, and they're going to very carefully reclaim the brick, and they will fill in the holes with that brick. So basically, it will look like it was originally designed with all of the same brick. In addition, in this model, as compared to Autobell, there are vacuums, there's pay stations, and all of those will be black. The awning will be black. What is red today in the existing building will be black, and otherwise everything remains the same. When we get to the landscape, I think it's important to understand this is a very mature landscape throughout the whole building. And as Peter presents it to you, the reason you have the red line is there were things that needed to be filled in that have died. There were things that were not up to code, or let's just say not up to current code. So there's things being filled in, and he'll walk you through all that. So that's sort of an overview. I gave you a packet, which I think for the most part is the same as what you have, but I think it would be easier for us to all walk through the same order. So I put them in an order. The very first picture that you see is the design that we showed to City Council as you would enter off of Cotton Creek, which is where you enter the property. And you'll see the awnings in front of you against the building. There's vacuums under that awning. You see the you see the brick. That's where the building will be chopped. The portico will be chopped off and the brick will be replaced. But that's the same brick. And you'll see, if you look toward the front corner, you can see a black awning. That's red today. So that's where that changes to black. To your left in that picture, you'll see the pay stations, or you won't see them. That's the whole point. Councilman Dorito, as an example, wanted it to sort of blend in, and so that's why everything was changed to black. If we go to the next picture, where you can see the traffic light, the sign is actually, that's not going to be the sign, and I understand that was deferred to staff by council, but the applicant did agree to uplight that, which was the look and feel they wanted to match Brookwood across the street. But you can see the mature hedges, and for the most part, those are all staying, and they'll be filled in. Trees, some trees were not, sorry?
You said that you can see the mature hedges. I don't.
Right here.
Looking at.
Right there.
On the rendering?
Yeah, but that's supposed to be a depiction of what's already there.
Oh, it looks like ivy growing on the wall.
Supposed to be hedges. So holes will be filled in where trees were not at the right distance apart. They're being filled in with a smaller tree. But again, they'll walk you through that in the landscape plan. If we flip to the third picture, where you can see it says pay here, those are the pay stations, and again, those are going to be black. And you'll notice the awning from the side, black. You can't really tell in this picture, but one of the other things the council was very specific about is there's some vacuums that are on the road side of the parking lot, and those are not going to be your traditional vacuums with the hoses above that you pull down and they come back. They wanted them to be short and not visible from the road, so they're actually torso height, and they were going to have an extra employee that's going to coil those back up and put them away. I don't expect those to be the vacuums that are used first. I think people will naturally, out of convenience, use the ones against the building, but they have to have a certain number for convenience of folks. If you look at the next diagram, it looks like this. The X is just to show you that's what's being removed from the building. Those bricks will be reclaimed and replaced.
All right, hold on a second, Mike. Let's catch up, or let James catch up to you.
It may not be in your packet. I'm just trying to. That's why I gave you the handouts. Good. If you look at the next picture, looks like this. So these are at existing locations. I'm only giving you the picture as a depiction of what the physical vacuum looks like. But imagine anything that's blue is black, anything that's silver is black. Everything's black. The reason I also wanted to show this picture was, actually you'll see it in the next picture. If we go to the next picture, someone I think had asked a picture about trash cans. They are attached at the bottom of the vacuums, and they are black. Again, everything will be black.
Can you clarify again briefly, which of the vacuum stations have this type and which have the
These are the
coil
ones
hoses?
against the building where there's an awning above them, and the reason that they're designed like this is as you pull the hoses out and you do your vacuuming, you put them back, they recoil on their own.
And that's on the side where the
That's against the entire building.
Where the portico share is today that you're removing.
Correct.
It's on that
Correct.
side. Okay.
Basically runs the length of the tunnel.
Okay. And where were the shorter ones?
The torso ones are against Cotton Creek. So as you pull off of Old Milton, the very first part of Cotton Creek before you get to the
Right along the
driveway
road.
is where the torso heights are.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Again, another picture of the vacuums and yet another picture of the vacuums. Not important other than the fact that they're just wanted to give you good depictions, but everything you see that's silver is black, everything blue, black, everything's black. Everything that's not black is black. Actually, everything that's not black is red brick. Okay, and then the next item you have is the site plan. And I'll give you a general overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to one of three people that's going to walk you through the various rest of the components. When you turn off of Old Milton Parkway onto Cotton Creek, you will make a right into the first driveway entrance. You will immediately turn to your left, and you'll see that center island is retained to guide you. You go around toward the back of the building, and you can see those two rows of pay stations right there where you see the arrows and the two lines in the middle at the top. You have the opportunity, if things don't work out, to bail out. That's why the other driveway was retained for purposes of bailout. Otherwise, you enter the tunnel, you go through the tunnel, you come out the end of the tunnel. You can either then leave by just continuing straight, make a left, and then go out the same entrance you came in, or you can go to any of the vacuums and vacuum out your car. This is all self-serve with the exception of folks who are seniors. There are employees on site to address and help those seniors or anyone who is handicapped in getting their cars vacuumed out. So that's really how the site plan orients. At this point, I will turn it over to Jesus Estrada, who will walk you through the site plan and the photometric plan. Then Andrew Woodward's going to come up and give you an overview of the elevations. And then Peter Bilson will come up and walk you through the landscape plan. And of course, I'll be here to try to direct any questions and get you the answers you need.
Thank you.
Okay, how you guys doing? My name is Jesus. So the site plan is simple. Like I said, like Mike was explaining, you just come in through Cotton Creek entry, and you head over to the pay stations, and you head into the tunnel. There's a canopy there's a canopy before you go in.
Jesus, who has control of the mouse or the monitor that we're looking at right now?
Why don't we do this? You want us to put it up on the projector?
Either that or.
There you go.
James was holding up a mouse over there. Does that work with the? Oh, there we go. Okay, just as you talk through this, if you can just kind of point where you're talking so that we're.
I'll do it. Okay, so right here, there's so once you come in, you pull into the tunnel, there's a canopy is here as well, and this is a bug prep area. So the employee will prep the car, and then off into the tunnel you go. And so once you come out, there's some strapping right here to guide you to go this way. And this is where you pull in and you go to the vacuums. So these are the vacuums that have the shorter in height, the torso height. And these are the ones that are regular height, covered by a canopy. And this is employee parking in the front. So this is where the employees will be parked out. It's kind of out of the way, make sure everything's functioning normal. So they're out of the way, and this is parking for the employees right there. That kind of explains everything with the site plan. I mean, I don't know if you have any questions about how.
So if I'm a customer, for instance, coming in from Old Milton Parkway, then I'll turn on to Cotton Creek entry there, and then turn into the I guess the parking area. I go through the pay station. Correct. Buy my car wash or whatever you do. Pay for it, and then I drive my car or drive it through the car wash.
Correct.
So I'm still sitting in the car.
Correct.
I'm not getting out of my car and having somebody drive it through, or it gets full. Okay. And then once the car is washed and dried and all that, then you drive it. If you want to vacuum your car out, you drive to a vacuum station, or you can go ahead and leave, I guess.
Correct.
Depending on what you want to do. Okay. All right. Just trying to figure out, do you actually get out of your car or not? So the only time you get out of your car is if you want to vacuum it. Right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Two other things important to note, not for DRB purposes, but just so you understand the business. A good majority of the people that utilize the business will have a monthly subscription. So all they'll do is they'll show up, it'll know that they have a monthly subscription, will open the gate, and they'll just drive through the tunnel and then do whatever they want to do on the back end. Some will pay at the pay station, and obviously it accepts payment right there at the pay station. They choose what kind of wash they want.
Okay. Any other, I guess you're not having to change any of the stormwater
Everything's
system
staying
or?
exactly the same.
Okay. I mean, you're
Everything's
actually making the building smaller, so I guess you're keeping the same pervious surface area.
We're actually
right?
decreasing it by a small portion.
Oh, okay.
So one of the council conditions was to increase the size of the landscape strip along Old Milton. By doing so, we're removing pavement and we're adding pervious surface and landscape materials. One of the misunderstandings when we were first presenting this to city staff was that what meets the council condition of double row of hedges is already existing, but we're having to plant more plant material behind it by choice to fill in the additional pervious surface that's being created.
Okay.
So it's additional landscaping.
All right. Very good. All right. Any other site plan questions?
I've got a simple question just regarding my understanding of this proposal. Essentially, you're taking an existing facility and you're enhancing the public's ability to use it because you're moving the pay station around and you're reworking the circulation. Is that generally what we're seeing?
That's exactly what you're saying.
All right. Thank you.
Quick question, where is your dumpster and/or recycling bins?
It's where it's always been located, sir.
Okay.
It's on the property line before you can get into the tunnel.
All right. Very good. Okay, any other site questions? None? Okay. Why don't we stay kind of with the site and go to landscaping now, please?
Quick question on one of there's a detail in there, arched metal canopy structure. I'm seeing a 3x3 concrete footer. None of that's above ground, right? There's just, for the photos that were submitted, there's just a little plate fits around the base of the pole that sits on top of that footer, right?
Correct.
So none of that concrete or all that stuff is subsurface.
Correct. Correct. Probably over-engineered with the depth of the concrete, but they want it.
Who knows what the wind loads might be? Who knows?
That's right. You're exactly right, though. But
Chairman,
Better over than under.
Gotta go
we
below
have,
the frost
some of
line.
the locations, some of those trenches are 8 feet deep by 4 foot squared. Yeah. And concrete at $180 a yard, it's fine.
did you want to move on to landscape?
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
Walk us
And I'd
through.
suggest as we go through landscape, probably the easier way to do it, obviously it's up to y'all's purview, would be to go through the red line. Because like I said, it's mostly existing landscape and it's really about filling in and getting it back to code compliant. Which, by the way, was all the way up until the last minute yesterday. And as Michael said to you, we were finally able to make sure that we had a meeting of the minds with staff to make sure that it was code compliant.
Okay.
Good morning. My name's Pete Billson. Good morning. As Mike had said, the landscaping there is existing. There was a 10-foot landscape strip along Old Melton. Now there's a 20. We took out some pavement there and we filled in with additional landscaping. There are 2 sawtooth oaks along Old Milton Parkway. I guess they must have got a deal on sawtooth oaks back in when this was developed because they're all over the site. But there are 2 and they're planted right up under the power lines. So if you go by there and you notice the site or you are familiar with the site, they've been chopped severely and they're in bad, well, they're not in bad shape, but they just look bad. So we're going to remove those 2 sawtooth oaks. And in the back part of the 20-foot landscape strip, we're going to plant 4 bald cypress. And then in between those, we're going to plant 3 chase trees to supplement the landscape strip as required by code and in my discussion with David Shostak yesterday.
Is that an overlay or for Old Milton, shade tree, understory tree, shade tree, understory, shade tree, understory?
What I was told was that if trees are spaced 25 feet or greater, they have to have a understory tree there. The bald cypress meet the code as far as landscape strip requirements, 1 for 25, 1 for 30 feet, I think is what it is. But because they're spacing, the arborist is requiring additional trees.
It's not easy to interpret that spacing. I understand that. But you can if you, I mean, I'm just saying, it doesn't mean you have to go, you can move this and this and have something in between as long as it meets the code.
We were trying to keep part of the site open for visibility.
Okay. Then I think you've heard me ask the last several times through is, do these introduced trees match any of the streetscape that exists on either side of the site?
There are bald cypress on this site.
What
I'm
about
not.
the streetscape along Old Milton?
Uh,
Besides the
Most of
Sawtooth
other
Oaks.
properties don't have much streetscape in terms of trees, if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure what the ice cream shop has right next door. I think it does have some bald cypress, but I think it may have some oaks as well. But I was trying to keep bald cypress because we're still close to power lines, and I didn't want to put something that was going to be a 60-foot crown. I was
Sure.
looking for
I
something
think
more
you're
like.
trying to, you draw an imaginary 10-foot line off the
Right.
power lines.
So I thought bald cypress was a good choice because it's already out there. It's doing well. And I like bald cypress. So I used bald cypress. The existing hedge along Old Milton and along Cotton Creek for the most part is dwarf Burford holly. It's a nice hedge. It's healthy. It's doing well. It's 3 feet tall in most of the areas. We've supplemented, there's one area where there used to be a bench at Auto Bell, and I think people made a path and cut out some of the shrubs, so we're filling that in. We've added supplemental landscaping around the sign at the corner of Cotton Creek Entry and Old Milton Parkway, and a little bit along the frontage of Cotton Creek Entry. All this was kind of discussed with the arborist, and it all meets code. So we've taken the existing landscaping and we've enhanced it in several areas. As you move along Cotton Creek Entry, beyond the entrance, that is all existing to remain.
James is taking us on a field trip again. Okay. Jeez.
The photo that you're looking at there to the right, those are Nellie R. Stevens that were just basically over pruned. Those are all being removed and being replaced with dwarf Burford holly to continue the hedge and make it a continuous hedge all the way down to the end. And behind that,
your
we've
drawing shows them staying. It says
got
5 existing Nellie R. Stevens.
to be removed. On the latest drawing, it's to be removed. Maybe you're looking at the
Oh,
previous drawing.
I can't read this.
Well, they're going to be removed based on our
Okay.
discussions yesterday, and they're going to be replaced with the continuous hedge of the Nellie R. Stevens. I mean, with the Burford holly.
Okay. And how big do the sea green junipers get?
I believe they're going to get 4 to 5 feet.
4 to 5.
You'll be able to probably see them eventually above, which I think is going to be fine. I think they're going to be nice. And then behind that, they'll fill in behind there. We've got 10 feet to fill in, so they'll fill in, and then I've put some smaller loropetalums in between some of the trees there as well. So it's kind of a full landscape strip. Some of that's really more of an enhancement for the people in the car wash, and the people on Old Milton aren't going to see it. But it's not required by code. It's required just to fill in the landscape strip.
Okay.
The other things we discussed were along Cotton Mill Place. There's very little landscaping along there as far as hedges go. So I've continued the theme throughout and put a double row of dwarf Burford holly back there. There's existing trees. They're spaced further than 25 feet, so I put chase trees in between those as well. And then the eastern property line, there's a lot of dead shrubs in there because of the freeze. It killed almost all of the Indian hawthorns. They're just basically sticks. So I'm taking all the shrubs out. We're replacing the shrubs, and we're taking out all trees and shrubs that are in conflict with those reclamation tanks that are back there. Those are required to be maintained. And what we've done is just cleared that area out, and then we're replanting to meet the requirement of the landscape strip along that side. We've got shrubs and trees to meet that requirement. And I believe that's about it, unless you have any questions.
What are your shrubs in that, especially the first 30 or 40 feet of that side landscape strip? That'd be the, when you just talk about the east, I guess.
In front of the building or?
Yes, sir.
On the side of the building?
As you work your way up the property line from the,
From the corner?
yeah,
I've got Laura Petalum, I've got some pink muley grass, and then along the side of the building, I put vintage jade distillum. The distillum does good in sun or shade. It's kind of a nice green, evergreen plant, and it's gonna be put all the way along the building foundation from the corner of the building to the reclamation
Okay, any other landscaping questions for the applicant? If not, all right, let's go to the architecture then. Let's get Mr. Woodward up here and talk about the building.
Good morning. I'm Andrew Woodward. So it's been mentioned before that basically we are removing the porte-cochere and the hand detail bays on the west side of the building. What we're going to do is there will be an existing wall there against the building that we're going to facade with matching brick. There will be an additional exit door coming out of that space. Right now, that's the door that goes from the main building into those hand wash bays.
So can you point out, or can somebody point out on our monitor where you're talking, just that general area where you're talking about places?
So it's essentially right here, right, this actually comes out this way now.
Okay.
And that's being removed, and the original brick actually that we're removing, it was requested by council that we hand select bricks and put back the exact bricks in the wall, so we're doing that, but it's right there.
All right, and you think you're able to match the mortar color too as well?
We should be, get
So
pretty
that
close
it
to
looks
it,
like
yeah.
it's a seamless renovation or removal, okay?
Yeah, and we're matching the brick detail and everything, so we've got a couple soldier courses in the building with some jack arches and stuff like that.
That's good, because we've seen some not so well done remodels.
You know, we have a good quality contractor that can handle
Okay.
that.
All right.
So the other part of the building is right now what I call the entrance tower, which is on the southwest corner of the building, or on this drawing, it's to the right of the front elevation. We have canvas canopy. We've got a gable on the top of the tower that is currently red. Again, all that's going to be painted black. There is an arched wooden window in the top portion of that tower on the west facade and the south facade that has to be removed due to poor maintenance. It's rotting. So we're going to remove that, and we're going to replace the window with a rectangular window. Again, kind of keeping more lines with canopy and the tower proportions as shown there on the drawing you have up on the screen from the front elevation and the south elevation. So we're going to replace or repaint the existing coping. As I mentioned, the gable structure will be repainted. All of the storefront will be repainted. And that is about the extent of the exterior change.
So you think you're going to have enough brick from the removal of the porte-cochere to be able to infill and do all the other brickwork?
At this time, we believe so.
Okay. Even for the tower, for instance, that because you're
All
having to
the
redo the
brickwork
tower.
on the tower will, yeah,
Okay.
be the same.
All right.
We have the materials here. This down at the bottom is the existing brick. So the existing brick, existing mortar. This is the coping of the building that just will be painted. We have the steel awning is black. The awning that goes along the west side of the building will be black with a black metal, which is shown here as an example. The prep canopy will have a steel structure, which will be the same black, but it'll have a canvas covering, which will be black as well. The vacuum awnings, finish, paint, and the building awning, of course, required by council, it's all black. So we have that.
And you mentioned prep canopy. Where's the prep canopy going?
So if you remember back to the, if you remember back on the site plan,
Right.
it would be on the north part of the building. So after you pay at the pay station and you make a right curve towards the building, the prep canopy is there.
That's where the prep.
Yeah, and on the architectural elevations, it's shown on the left over there. If you're looking at the top one, the front elevation.
So that to the left side is that, that's the prep canopy.
That is correct.
Okay.
If you go down to, flip one page to A2.2 and look at the rear elevation, which is the north elevation, or actually the left elevation, which is the north elevation, you can see the canopy there over the entrance into the wash tower or the wash bay.
Okay.
And that'll be a steel structure with a canvas on roof.
All right.
The left elevation there, which is the north side, we're not doing anything except painting all of the coping and the downspouts. So all that brickwork is existing today.
So on this view, it looks like a bricked-in window. Is that the way it is today, or is one of the existing windows being bricked in?
Which one are you referring to now?
On the tower?
The tower, that is an existing arch that's there now. It's not visible from anywhere in the parking lot or even at the street, really, for that matter.
Is it glass or brick right now?
It's brick right now.
It's brick
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, there is no window.
I was wondering, I mean, I'm okay with the rectangular windows, but wouldn't it be a lot less expensive to get arch windows made to put back in there instead of doing all that masonry work?
So, to not get into too much detail, one of the downsides of the council's restrictions is that it does severely limit the sight line of the business to the road. A good number of the folks who will use this business will make an impulse decision based on visibility. And so the idea of adding the rectangular windows, besides being in keeping with the other look and feel of the building, is to try to add some visibility because there'll be backlighting as permitted by code to sort of draw your attention to it, because you're not going to see anything at ground level because the hedges and everything else are covering that up.
And so that, speaking of that, the tower, I guess, the glass in that tower will be clear? Is it clear glass you're proposing? Or?
It has a tint to it, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, otherwise it's clear.
But is it, so if I walk into the space, I guess you can't walk in there, can you? I mean, you can't look up and see, you're not
No,
seeing
it has a ceiling.
Okay. All right, so it's not an occupied space.
The tower is not occupied, no, that's correct.
Okay. Any other exterior elevations and or materials? Let's see, was there, I think there was, are you doing anything with site lighting? You changing out any site lighting or doing anything?
That I'll have to defer back to Jesus.
Yes. Yes. It should be. I would think.
Yeah, so as far as the lighting plan, we're going to use the existing light poles that are already there. There are two that need to get relocated. There was this one right here.
Let's see, okay, I can't, all right, bear with James. There we go, okay.
So this one down to the south by Old Milton Parkway. This is a proposed light pole. This was originally in this area, but we had to move it down here due to landscaping issues. So we moved it down here and we pointed it this way. So that's the one that's being relocated. And then also there's one up here by the pay stations. This was also down in this area, but we relocated here due to landscaping issues. So those are only two light poles that will be relocated. Everything else is already existing.
Okay.
And those poles are coordinated with the new trees that are there.
Yes. Yeah. So we coordinated that. And there will be lights on the building. We're trying to use the existing lights that are already around the building. then probably propose one more right there where the portico was at.
Okay. Are those gonna have black housings too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I did notice.
You're gonna miss the building if you blink.
I did notice on one of the elevations, and it was on the left elevation, which is the north, and this is just beside the prep or right beside the prep awning or canopy. It appears that door is like a gray color. Is that gonna be, I assume it's gonna be black.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the city council.
Everything that's
required
not
everything
black is black.
yeah.
Even the overhead door.
Yeah, right
that-
now, it's a
that
metal
goes-
door. It's a metal flush panel door that.
Okay.
It goes into the mechanical room. Yeah,
Okay.
It needs to be painted.
Just checking. It just was a little different color on your rendering there.
And there's gooseneck lights on the building. Those are going to stay.
Those are existing, yeah, and they will stay.
And they'll be black.
Yeah, they'll be painted.
You might be picking up on a theme.
I know.
There is.
Are there any other questions we can answer for the board?
All right, let's see. We've gone through the site plan, we've gone through landscaping, we've gone through exterior elevations and materials, photometrics. I think we've covered everything. No, I don't think we have to approve the site plan. No, we got to, okay. Signs go to staff, yeah. And are there any public comments about this application? Any public comment? No public comment, okay. All right, let's see if we can craft some motions here.
You do probably need to talk about the site plan. So condition number 4 said that it needed to be,
Site plan shall be redeveloped substantially similar to the site plan prepared by Civil Logics.
oh yeah, so I guess you don't have to say anything about that.
Except for like conditions below.
The ones that I thought you touched were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay. Yeah, I had to turn to back to page 3 and page 4 of the, to make sure I got the final conditions. And then, yeah, 9. Okay. I think we've covered everything on these conditions.
Yep.
Discussions.
We definitely did on landscape and the coloring.
Was there a council condition on DRB members getting a membership?
It was mandatory.
I'd like mine. I will be a visitor.
I will actually be coming into Alpharetta
Oh,
for that because there's not one in Johns Creek yet, but there will be soon. I'm hoping that Mayor Gilvin will give me my visa to allow me to come back and forth.
yeah, let's do that. Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 230021, Foamworks Alpharetta, motion to approve the site plan, elevation of materials, and site lighting as presented today. The motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Swing, a second by Ms. Rocco. Before we have discussion, I'm going to ask the applicant, because you submitted some constitutional objections at this point. Do you see, based on this motion and the second that we have, do you have, on behalf of the applicant, any?
No.
You consent to what we're talking about, I guess
Yes.
is what I'm saying. Very good. Okay. All right, are there any questions or comments about the motion on the floor? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, so that was site plan, exterior elevations and materials, and site lighting. So we got landscaping.
I'll make the motion regarding DRB 230021 Foamworks landscaping, that we approve the landscaping as submitted in the handouts and discussed in the motion.
I second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Corkle, a second by Mr. Owens. Again, I'll ask the applicant, based on the motion, do you have any?
We're good.
Constitutional objections, okay? Applicant is good. Any further questions from board members on the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 7-0. All right.
Thank you
for
very
your time
much.
this morning. Or, yes, this morning.
Look forward to seeing you at the car wash.
There we go. All right. There being no further business and with no objections from fellow board members, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone. See ya. Have a safe trip to Florida. Okay. 11. Thank you. Thank you, Pete.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do still have active microphones.